All right, hello everyone. For our case assessment, we are doing cognitive behavioral therapy, and we decided to use Piglet from Winnie the Pooh for our assessment. So, first to start off with our case assessment of Piglet. Piglet is a young male pig who currently lives alone in the Hundred Acre Woods. He is small in stature, the smallest of all of his friends. His size often leads him to being more timid comparative to the rest of his friends. His best friend is Winnie the Pooh, who is more optimistic and joyful compared to Piglet. He typically stands up for Piglet and assists him in overcoming his fears that he has. Some of his other friends include Tigger, Eeyore, Rabbit, Owl, and Christopher Robin. Tigger is more energetic and confident comparative to Piglet, and then Eeyore is more reserved and has a more pessimistic outlook on life. Then Rabbit is the more organized, practical, and sociable of the group. And then Owl is the friend that is very knowledgeable and intelligent. Then Christopher Robin is the mentor figure of all of their friends, and he embodies kindness and creativity. And then Piglet is known for his traits of being kind, friendly, loyal, and helpful to all of his friends that are in the Hundred Acre Woods with him. Although his friends reassure him, Piglet has feelings of inadequacy towards himself. He has poor self esteem, and when he finds himself in stressful situations with his friends, sometimes can become more overwhelmed with feelings of worry and nervousness. His body's response to this nervousness is typically stuttering when he speaks and having difficulty making those hard decisions. Although he has these fears, there are many times when he is in these stressful situations and his loyalty will overcome those fears and he will face the dangers that he has in front of him to help the ones that he cares for, such as his friends that are with him in the Hundred Acre Woods. So, Piglet decided to come to therapy because he would like to learn how to manage his diagnosis of generalized anxiety, as well as improve his self esteem overall. So, in today's session, we will begin with a check in on Piglet's recent experiences and emotional state. We will be using open ended questioning that will help him evaluate the accuracy of his anxious thoughts that he's been having, particularly any cognitive disorientations related to self doubt and fear of failure. We will be using cognitive restructuring techniques to employ and guide Piglet in reframing these thoughts into more balanced and constructive perspectives for the future. To address his avoidance tendencies, gradual exposure exercises will be incorporated, tailored to his comfort level that he's currently at. This may include role-playing scenarios in which Piglet practices expressing concerns of his friends, reinforcing his ability to engage in social interactions without excessive fear taking over. And then, if Piglet exhibits heightened distress, grounding techniques may be implemented before engaging in deeper cognitive work from there on. The session will emphasize reinforcing his growing sense of self-efficacy by heightening past successes and encouraging self-reflection. The overall approach will balance validation and challenge, helping Piglet build confidence in his ability to manage his anxious thoughts and behaviors that he currently has. So now we are going to move into the therapy session with Piglet. Hi, Piglet. How are you feeling today?
Oh, I don't know. I've been feeling so worried lately, like something bad was going to happen. What if something terrible happens to me and my friends?
Okay, it sounds like you're imagining a lot of worst case scenarios. So I would like to explore those thoughts a bit more in this session. What's the worst thing you're afraid might happen with you and your friends?
Oh dear. Well, I'm afraid that something bad will happen. Well, I don't know what, but when I'm not looking, and I can't be there to help. Like, what if something bad happens to Pooh and I'm not there to help him?
Okay, all right. That's a really kind and caring thought that you've just expressed to me. Piglet, it's natural to worry about the people you love, but let's challenge that thought a bit. How often has something bad happened when you weren't there to assist Pooh?
Well, I I don't know. Well, he's always been okay. He has the weirdest luck I've ever seen. Even when I'm not around. But still something could happen and that's scary.
Okay, I understand. It sounds like you're having a lot of love and care for your friends, which for Pooh, which is great and a wonderful thing that you have, but it's important to remember that worrying about things that haven't happened yet in your life can make us feel even more scared. It makes us scared for the future. So, do you think you could focus on what's happening right now in this present moment instead of what it might come?
Well, I don't know. Being in the present sounds scary too. It makes sense of what you're saying, but sometimes I feel like my worries are too big for me to handle. I'm so little.
Okay. It's okay to feel that way, Piglet. You don't have to handle everything all at once in one session at one time in your life. You've faced challenges before and you've been brave and loyal to your friends even when it seemed hard at that time. What's one small thing that you can do today that might help you feel a little less anxious in the future?
One small thing. Hmm. Well, in the past, sometimes focusing on my breathing helps, and maybe I could take a deep breath and remember that poo and everyone else are okay. That could maybe help me stay present and just enjoy the day with them.
A deep breath is a great tool for you to take using those relaxation tools. So it sounds like you have a lot of great plans already and great coping skills in your toolbox. But remember, you're not alone in your worries. And you've got the strength to face them, and you've shown that before when you've been with your friends and with Pooh. So you just kind of have to take it one step at a time.
I guess it's hard to remember that when I feel worried and scared that other people feel that way too. It helps when I'm reminded of that. That did help. Thank you. I do feel a little bit better now.
Okay.
Still scary, but not as bad.
Okay, great. Yeah, you're welcome, Piglet. And I just want you to take it one moment at a time. So, and you've been doing great through our session so far. I want you to make sure that you are able to keep taking steps forward in your process and not really taking steps backward. So, I want you to feel more confident. Would you be open to trying another exercise to help with this? I know that you mentioned feeling overwhelmed and very stressed.
Oh dear. Oh, I don't know. What if I look dumb or something terrible happens? What if I mess up?
Okay, so it sounds like you're worried about not being able to meet your own expectations, per se. I think that this exercise I have could really help you if you should just give it a shot.
Well, I don't know. Meeting my own expectations is hard. But I guess I could do it.
Okay, great. So this current interaction ties in perfectly. It seems like you are struggling with the idea of needing to meet expectations for yourself. So, do you notice any patterns in your thoughts when you feel those anxious feelings in any way? Maybe there's a specific thought that pops up in your head when you have these worryful, when you're very nervous and scared. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Well, I guess I think a lot of times, what if I can't do it? Or what if something goes terribly wrong? What if what I do is wrong and causes something terribly wrong? It's like I'm sure whatever happens is going to be the worst.
Okay, okay, that's a really common thought pattern that a lot of other people have as well, Piglet. You're jumping to the worst case scenario before even considering any other possibilities for yourself. Okay? So there's actually a term for this and is called catastrophizing. So it's when we assume that the worst outcome will happen, even when there's no real evidence for it at all. So you're kind of thinking ahead that even when you put yourself out there, something bad will always happen to you. So, can you think of a time when you worried about something, but it didn't turn out as bad as you really thought it was going to be once you went through with it?
Well, the last time my friends and I were going on an adventure, I was worried that I'd get lost or hurt because I'm so little and the rest of them are so big. But when we finally went, I was just fine. I didn't even get lost at all.
Hmm. Okay. So that's a great example, actually. I'm really glad that you shared that with me. So you were able to do it despite all of those worries that you had beforehand. Now, let's try something. What if instead of focusing on the worst possible outcome that could happen in the future, we explore a few other possibilities instead? What might happen if things go well, or even just okay for you?
I've never thought that way. Well, if the things go well, maybe I could help my friends. We could have a good time in the 100 Acre Woods, and we'll all be happy. And I guess if things don't go perfectly, it's okay too. I could still try my best, and maybe people would understand that I can't do it all.
Yeah, exactly. So instead of expecting the worst case scenario, you can balance your thoughts by considering that things could go well or maybe just fine or okay. All right? It doesn't have to be perfect for it to be successful in a way. How does that make you feel when you've kind of gone over that experience and talked it through?
Well, it makes me feel a little bit better. I guess it's not all bad. It's okay to make a mistake and not always be perfect and try my best. But I don't know. It's different from how do I do it? I can think about it. But I am trying my best.
Yeah. That's a wonderful realization that you just came with. Okay, Piglet? Remember, perfection isn't the goal. It's okay to make mistakes or not always get it right the first time. Okay? You can handle whatever comes your way, just like you did on all of your other adventures when you overcame that fear. You were really worried at that time, but you made it through. Would you like to explore any other worries you have had or you have been having recently, perhaps?
Well, I talked about this a little bit earlier, but I'm worried sometimes my friends think I'm not helpful enough,
Okay.
that I don't do enough. But I guess if I'm thinking about what we talked about before, that's in my head. And maybe my friends appreciate my efforts, even if I'm not perfect, but I don't appreciate my own.
Exactly, Piglet. Your friends value you for who you are and the efforts you put in your own way. So sometimes our worries are just our minds trying to protect us in a way. But that doesn't mean we can't change those worries with more realistic thoughts and kind of changing our thought patterns on our own. So you've been doing a great job through this. How do you feel so far?
Well, think I feel a little less scared now. A little less worried. I don't think I'm stuttering as much, which is new.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe being less worried helps me be not as afraid.
Yeah. That's the spirit, Piglet. So keep practicing these new ways of thinking, these alternative thought patterns, and you'll find that you feel more in control of yourself and your thoughts, your anxiety. You're stronger than you might realize. Even though you're smaller than your friends, you make a huge difference in their lives.
Well, I'm not so sure about all that. I still feel pretty worried lately, Like, what if it all happens again? What if we're lost in the woods again?
I understand, Piglet. It sounds like you're feeling anxious about getting lost. What are some things you think might happen if you did get lost in the woods?
Well, I might not be able to find my way back home. And everyone might be worried about me or not worried about me. And I'll be alone in the woods and I don't, I.
That sounds really scary. And it's completely understandable to feel anxious about that. But, sometimes our worries can get bigger than the situation itself. Okay? So today I'd like to try something called exposure therapy with you. It's a way of facing your fears in small steps so they don't feel as overwhelming in a way. Okay? So what do you think about that? How does that sound to you?
Oh dear. That sounds a bit scary. But if it could help, maybe I can try.
All right. Thank you, Piglet. You're very brave for considering it. Let's start with something small, all right? Think about the woods, the 100-acre woods. But imagine you're just standing at the edge of it, okay? You're not lost yet, just looking at it from a safe place from afar. You know where you are. How do you feel right now?
Well, I'm standing just at the edge of the trees and I'm not lost, so I'm not scared, just nervous, maybe?
Okay, great. You're doing a really well job, okay? So now, let's take it a step further. A little bit. Imagine you're walking along that path, but you're still on the right trail, okay? You're not lost. You know where you're going, but there are a few twists and turns ahead of you that you might have to make. How are you feeling now? What are your thoughts?
Um, well, still nervous, but I can handle that because I'm not lost. I'm on a path, and I could always turn around if I am lost. or
Mm-hmm.
scared.
Mm-hmm. Oh, great. So you're still in control, would you say?
Yeah, I still
Mhm.
have the choice to make to
And
go.
remember, even if you feel a little lost, you have friends that live with you and live not that far from you. You're always on adventures with them. Friends like Rabbit and Pooh, who would help you at any moment, right?
Mhm,
Now, let's go a little further. Imagine you take a few more steps off of the trail,
mhm.
okay? You're still near the edge of the woods, but it's a little less familiar for you. It's not something you totally recognize. How are you feeling now?
Oh my. Well, that's a little more scary. Okay. But I can still go back, right? I'm not that far off.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. So you have the ability to leave at any time. And the woods are not as big and scary as they may seem when you break them down into these little steps. All right? The more we practice this, the less frightening it will become for you. That you might not feel like you're going to get lost as much. You might not become so nervous. Now, I'm going to have you take it one more step. I want you to imagine you're walking through the woods, but
Okay.
you know exactly where you are because you've taken these steps before. You've been on this trail already, maybe hundreds of times before with your friends. Does that feel a little bit better for you?
Yeah, that's familiar and that's not scary. I've done that. And I can do that. I'm with people I trust and I know and we're gonna make it.
Yes, that's awesome, Piglet. See how much progress you've made just in these little steps of doing some kind of imagery in your head. Little by little, we can face those fears that you have and all that nervousness that comes on you when you do start to stutter more and your body does tense up. Realizing that you have the control to make those decisions. With practice, getting lost doesn't have to be so frightening anymore for you. Okay?
I guess that could make me a little bit braver if we keep working on it. It's not the woods I'm afraid of, it's just being uncertain I'm afraid of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And remember, it's okay to take things one step at a time. Like I said before, you're doing great. We'll continue practicing this, and soon the woods won't seem as scary as they once did for you. So, how do you feel about that?
I feel proud. I feel proud of myself. Maybe I just don't have to be as afraid anymore. I think I still have a lot to work on, but I'm proud that I started.
Personally, I'm proud of you, Piglet. You've made amazing progress today just in this first session. We'll keep making those small steps together and you'll keep feeling stronger. Remember, I'm always here to talk if you need me and you can always reach out. But I will be seeing you in our next session and I want you to keep practicing and trying to change those patterns as much as you can and realizing when those nervous thoughts pop into your head and addressing them as much as you can. Maybe even writing down a journal. Okay? And then you can bring it back and we can take a look at it. Would that sound good?
Yeah, I think that's something I could do. I like to write.
Good. That'd be great. All right. So, anything else you want to talk about today?
Not today, but I'm excited to keep working.
All right. Awesome. All right. Well, I'll see you next time. All right.
Okay. All right, so throughout this therapy session, something that I noticed about CBT and how we did it was that the initial thing was addressing, like getting to know me, and Amber did a really good job of talking and asking questions. setting up that background to understand who Piglet was and agreeing on those goals for therapy. It was a lot of collaboration. It was also like a shared understanding of what the problem was, like talking about how Piglet's anxious about not being there for his friends, not or getting lost in the woods, not being good enough, and validating that response and understanding that. And then the thing that I thought worked really well was that Amber explained what each therapy intervention was going to do and why and how, relating those techniques. So it was like identifying the negative thoughts and disrupting that pattern. And Amber was like, "We're going to do that. We're going to say it, talk through it, and keep going." Um, Challenging the thoughts, letting me know that like that's not accurate. What is actually happening? And saying why we think that way and that other people think that way too. I thought it was a very validating response. And talking through those alternatives, what we can replace it. So, hey, what happens if you go out in the woods? Well, you might not get lost. You might have a good time with your friends. Rather than if I go out in the woods, I'm gonna get lost and everyone's gonna get worried about me. The exposure therapy, I liked the guided imagery. I thought it painted a really good picture of what was happening and how to feel anxious. I felt myself wringing my hands too, which was a really good sign of that. And the talking about coping skills, taking a deep breath, especially during those triggering situations, to prevent like a relapse in that. That was my reflection.